Well, that time has rolled around again. It is tax time for businesses in Australia. With the end of the financial year fast approaching, it's important that you are prepared. G'day, Ben Futrell here, co-founder of Max My Profit. We're all about helping you build the business you imagine. Now, if you imagine having a business that was much more profitable and didn't have to pay too much tax, then I've got good news for you then, because today's video and the next video I bring out is going to be a two-part series, because there's 16 tips I've got for you over the next two videos on how to make sure that you are prepared for tax. Now, in Australia, our financial year ends on the 30th of June, and it is important that for a business owner, you start thinking about how to prep yourself before that time comes. Now, it may be a little bit late by the time you're watching this video. I'm not sure when you're finding this. It may be another financial year, so some of this stuff may not be relevant. But nonetheless, at least you're starting to think about how to prep your business for the end of the financial year. Now, if you're not in Australia, I'm sure there are also some tips in this video, on in this two-part series, that will help you make sure you think about how you go about prepping your business for the end of your financial year, wherever you are. Now, I will start off by saying this disclaimer is I am not an accountant. This is not financial advice, and you need to talk to your local professionals about your circumstances. What I'm giving you here is general advice only, and hints and tips to help you think about or ask the right questions of the professionals around you. All right, now that's out of the way, let's get stuck into these first 8 tips and look out for the next video with part 2 of this video. All right, my very first tip is to make sure that you are using technology to make your life a lot easier. Some 20 years ago now, they started to come about all of this electronic or software-driven accounting software that made your life easier. And today, in 2021, that software is amazing. It connects to all your bank accounts. It allows you to do things like lodging your quarterly business activity statements here in Australia. It does a lot of things for you. And in particular, those key players will also link very seamlessly with your bank accounts, let you automatically suck all the transactions in, categorize your spending, give you all the reports that you need, and a very, very powerful management software as well. But also when it comes to tax time, makes it really easy for you to identify what are the deductions that you've got, what expenses do you have, how much profit are you making, etc., etc. So make sure you are leveraging your time by implementing software programs into your business to help you manage when it comes to tax time. Now, the second tip that I've got for you, and it may be a little bit late, I don't know, because we are sort of on our way through mid-June already, is to talk to an expert early. The worst thing you can do is wait until after the financial year, because there are some things that you cannot change by backdating. And so that can be quite tricky if you've got some sort of circumstance that needs to be taken care of before the 30th of June or before the end of your financial year. I would recommend meeting with your accountant on a quarterly basis and doing tax planning every single quarter, where you review your sales numbers, review your expenses, and have a look at what kind of things you might be needing to do or think of doing in the future to be able to minimize the tax that you're going to pay and maximize the benefits you get by the concessions that each tax department will give you around the world. Here in Australia, there are a host of different concessions and things that are available for you as a small business owner, and quite often those things will also change depending on what's going on. For example, in the last 12 months, there's been quite some changes because of the coronavirus, and this means that as a business, you need to be planning for these things up ahead and know what it is that you may or may not be able to do when it comes to tax time. All right, tip number 3, and this goes without saying, is you want to make sure you've got all your records ready. So if you have not been diligent or disciplined with managing your tax or I guess your record keeping for taxes over the past 12 months, you want to make sure you get that done. The last thing you want to do is be under the pump and pressured to do these things last minute, because you will make mistakes, you will miss things, and it will cost you money. And there's no excuse, especially if you followed my tip earlier about using technology. By using software, it makes it really easy for you to be able to stay on top of your books and make sure that your accounts are reconciled. You also need to make sure that you have thought about all the different expenses that you may want to put into that instant asset write-off that was available in Australia, or still is available in Australia. And with a lot of forward planning, you can make sure that you do that, but you need to make sure you've got all your records in order. So as you go to your accountant or whoever it is that does your tax, you're able to give them everything that they need so they can make informed decisions. Okay, so make sure you've got some sort of a system for your record keeping, get everything organized, and make sure you are prepared well ahead of time. Now, my fourth tip for you, and I sort of mentioned it a couple of tips ago, and that is to consider the different sort of small business concessions that may be available. There are different things available depending on the size of your company, but it is very easy for you to see what is available to you on the Australian Taxation Office website, so the ATO website. You can head across there and check out some of the things that are available for small business. Just type in small business concessions in the search bar, and you'll find a whole host of things may well pop up. It changes from time to time. Otherwise, make sure you're asking your accountant if there are any small business concessions you may be eligible for, because there may be some sort of funding or tax breaks, particularly for your industry. For example, if you're an importer of overseas goods, there are some GST breaks. And if you are, a small business with a minimal amount of stock turnover, you may not even have to do a stock take. There are different concessions for different businesses. Once again, this is very general advice, but you can head to the ATO's website and you can check that out for yourself. In the search bar, small business concessions, and you'll see a page will pop up with lots of different information. And of course, your tax agent should be able to help you with the answers. All right, the fifth tip in this part 1 video is to check all of your deductions. Make sure you are making deductions for the things that you can. Did you know that pretty much anything that you spend that is contributing to you running your business, that leads to you getting sales, can be a tax deduction? Now, I say that with a word of caution, is that if at any point in time, whatever it is you have bought, you use personally, you cannot make the tax deduction for that particular portion of that equipment or product or service. So for example, let's say that you have a motor vehicle, but you also use it for private use, then that vehicle can only be used as a tax deduction for the business portion of usage. Okay, so it's very important that you are able to ascertain what portion of that deduction is business use and what portion of that is personal use. But there may be things, for example, even with home offices in the last year because of COVID, a lot of people working from home. There are new concessions or new tax breaks for businesses here in Australia for those that were working from home. You may be able to claim some of your electricity costs or something to do with your running of your home, air conditioning, etc., if you had to run your business from there. So do make sure that you check all of the things that you are eligible to claim. Sometimes I've seen people that didn't realize they can claim things like clothing, if it's been embroidered with your company logo and it is part of the uniform that you wear, and things like that can be claimed. A lot of people don't realize there are things like that that are available to you. So make sure that you are clear on the list of deductions that you can make. If you're unsure about anything in particular, talk to your accountant. And if you're using anything that you have bought for your business that you're claiming in a personal way, make sure you also document exactly what it is you're doing personally. That way you can make sure that you avoid any hidden traps or any fines, I guess, or fringe of benefits tax if that was applying to you. So make sure you check that out as well. Once again, as I say, pretty much with all of these tips, check with your accountant because they are in the know. All right, number 6 is an important one, especially in the last year or so. There's been a lot of changes, and that is for you to find out if there are any changes that apply to you or your business when it comes to taxation. For example, there's been a major change in Australia with single touch payroll if you have more than 20 employees, and that sort of came about in the last year or so. And so it's important for you to get your head around what changes there are for you, your business, your industry. And once again, the ATO website is a great place for you to find out if there are any changes, but at least ask the question, is there anything that changed significantly for my business or my circumstances in the past 12 months? Ask your accountant, find out what those changes are and how they affect you from a taxation purpose. As we roll up to 30th of June, the last thing you want to find out is that there was something that you were supposed to have done in 2021 and that you didn't do, and all of a sudden now you've got to rush to make a change or get things done in your business. So make sure you are researching right now what it is that may have changed in the past 12 months, if anything, that will affect how you go about making your deductions and finalising your financial year. All right, tip number 7, and this is a biggie because I think it's going to confuse a lot of people because this is not something that had normally happened, and this is to do with the government stimulus payments that were made throughout financial year 21. And for businesses, it's very important that you include JobKeeper payments in your taxable income for your business. It counts but the cash flow booster payments, these were the ones that were paid based on your PAYG. They are not to be included in your overall income. They will show up on your profit and loss statement, but you will not be, from what I understand, showing those in your taxable income. So once again, very important to talk to your accountant through where the money came from. Make sure that in your accounting software you have separated where each income came from the stimulus package, whether it was from JobKeeper or whether it was from the cash flow booster payments. But some of those payments are not going to be counted as a taxable income, and some of those are. So really important that you get your head around that. Otherwise, you might make a declaration of income that you don't have to and pay more tax than you should be. So really, really important to double check that with your accountant. Now, my final tip for this part 1 of my 16 tips video. So this is tip 8. You'll get the next 8 tips in the following video. But my final tip is to be prepared for a bigger tax bill this year. Now, this may not apply to everybody, but there were certain people where the tax department in Australia did not charge ongoing PAYG, which is those pay-as-you-go payments, particularly if you're self-employed. You might have noticed that you did not see as many bills from the tax department asking for you to prepay your tax. Now, the upside of that is that throughout the year where the COVID restrictions were limiting your business activity and maybe your revenue dropped, it meant that you didn't have to find the money to pay these payments. But what is going to happen is that they are going to expect to be paid at some stage, and you'll find that when you lodge your financial statements for the end of the year, they will calculate the amount payable. Now, I don't want you to panic and stress out about that if you've just learned or just realized that that may have happened to you, because the tax department is very good at giving you some assistance there with payment plans. Typically, never ever be afraid to ask for a payment plan if you feel like it is going to be detrimental to your business trying to pay that payment all at once, and it will help with your cash flow. So just be aware that for some people, you may not have seen a quarterly PAYG as you may have previously, and it may have even just slipped your mind. It's one of those things that you may not be thinking about, may not be on top of mind, but you will get the tax bill when you do your tax return. All right, so make sure you are on top of that. All right, well, that's the 8 tips from part 1 of this video series. Watch out for the next video coming out in the next week or so, which will have part 2 with another 8 tips to help you make sure you are prepared for tax time here in Australia and, of course, anywhere around the world. And hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure you give it the big thumbs up. You hit that subscribe button, and see you on the next one. See ya.